Welcome back, everyone, to The Boiling Point. This episode, entitled The Fascist Socialism, of course, a play on words that I chose for the title of the episode. We have a highly anticipated guest. Got to make sure I'm staying in camera here, everybody. Highly anticipated guest. I've been trying to get since I first started it. We finally got him on here. We'll be having him repeatedly, hopefully. Gavin Whitcomb. Gavin, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John.
And now you're going to talk to us and tell us and give us some differences about fascism and socialism.
Yeah, a lot of people really don't fully understand the difference or similarities between the two ideologies. The main issue is in this nation today with our youth and academia tends to, well, we know this, it pushes its own agenda, but a lot of people erroneously, you've heard it all of the time on the news, left and right. So if someone is a white supremacist, they're right wing.
Yeah.
And then they say if someone is a conservative, they're a right wing. Well, here's the issue with that. They're using a scale that's designed to calibrate, European ideology and applying it to American ideology. Okay, so the right wing and left wing on the American scale is, on the right wing we're conservatives, meaning we want to conserve our culture, our traditions, but mostly is the Constitution of the United States.
Yeah.
The Bill of Rights, the things that gives people who hate the Bill of Rights the right to say that they hate the Bill of Rights.
Yes.
The very thing that they use to destroy it is what gives them the right to do that. So
there's not many countries in the world that have freedom of speech.
Correct.
Not even Canada. Canada doesn't even have freedom of speech.
No, not really. Not at all, actually. Reagan was right when he said that if America falls, there won't be any place to go to. This is the last place that has actual freedom, and we're losing it quickly, literally by the day. But when we measure, by the European scale, you're basically measuring like how Marxist is someone, how their ideology fits into the European way of things. In the early 1900s, people went fascistic. Other nations went communistic. And there were clashes between the two. So today, one of the things we're going to discuss is the similarities between the two and the differences. Okay, a little history. We all know the most popular form of communism is Marxism, and that's by its founder, Karl Marx, also his pal, Friedrich Engels. He wrote Das Kapital and the Communist Manifesto, all 40-some boring pages of it. And by the way, anybody that can read Das Kapital and the Communist Manifesto and not fall asleep a couple times, and then goes and says they can't read the Bible because it's too boring, they can't get through the these and thous, well, you're silly, and that's just a fact. Very difficult. But anyway, we have fascism and communism. For some reason, even though they're very similar, they hate each other. And some of the things that they have in common, okay, I took some notes here, one-party system. Okay, that's whether it be a dictator, a commission, group of people, centralized government. That's key. They both have that. The collective is more important than the individual. All right, always, your individual rights do not matter. You're just another peg in the machine. Your thoughts, your dreams, your hopes, your visions, what you want to be. No, that's not up to you. How can you benefit the state? How can you benefit the idea?
That's fascism?
That's both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, both. In both ideologies, the individual does not matter. They promote revolutionary change over gradual change. Okay, and that's important to note. What happened in America was in the early 1900s, we developed what's called progressivism. They saw these radical revolutionary changes, recognized that the American people are not going to put up with that. Okay, they're not going to stand for it. It's not in our nature. It goes against the Constitution. So progressivism was progressive changes, small doses of socialism, fascism over long periods of time, to the point where you don't really recognize that you don't have any rights anymore. Okay, until it's too late. Obviously, they've run out of patience. So, another similarity between communism and fascism is the rejection of a free market system. Okay?
Yes.
So, now, differences between communism and fascism on that respect is that communism, nobody owns property. You're not allowed to own property. Ownership of property is immoral. It belongs to the collective, the state. With fascism, you can own your own property. You could own your own business. But the government tells you what you can and cannot do with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's more, you are basically given the illusion that you own something. That's all. But if you're not down with their agenda, well, they have no problem taking it from you and killing you, obviously.
Yeah.
As historically speaking, government control is absolutely necessary in both of them. Now, the ideology of Karl Marx was that, when people overthrow their oppressors, meaning their bosses, the wealthy people that give them jobs, when they overthrow their oppressors, then everybody just works together for the common good, and then eventually, and then you have a strong government, but eventually the government is supposed to just get out of the way, and people will change, and then everybody will eventually, over time, through all the different steps, everything will just go into this beautiful utopia, and there will be complete world peace.
Yeah.
So, no individual rights, favor collective rights. So, majority rules. Democracy, if you will.
Absolute democracy.
Absolute democracy. But that's fine if you tell the people what to think.
Yeah.
So, complete government control with the false sense of we have a say in this because we're all equal. So, use of violence and dictator techniques. War, using the military as, the police, secret police, spying on people, your own people, so no rights to privacy.
And this
like that.
This is both you're still talking about?
We're still talking about both. Another thing is controlled religion. Through either the eradication of religion or controlling what is taught in the religion, or how much you can say or what you can do. Another thing that's the same is a planned and centralized economy. Okay, so some differences.
Well, since we're going to get to the differences quick, I figured I'd help you out here, and I looked up what the dictionary term definitions were for these. So we'll give these out, and then you can go over some of the differences.
Sure.
We'll go with communism first. Communism is defined as a political theory derived from Karl Marx, advocating class war and leading to a society in which all property is publicly owned and each person works and is paid according to their abilities and needs.
Right.
Now, let me bring up...
But more to their needs rather than their abilities.
Yes, obviously, if people have more needs, then there are people to work, which is, I believe, one of the problems with these things. Isn't that right?
Yeah, one of the many.
Sorry, everybody. My tablet is deciding to.
Well,
There we go. All right. Now we'll define fascism. Fascism is a form of far-right authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimentation of society and of the economy, which came to prominence in the early 20th century Europe. Both of these things are described as a form of far-right, and
right.
they are both obviously authoritarian, which you have also went into already about. So
right. So, and that goes into what I was saying about the scale. Okay, what kind of, basically, you can't apply the European scale of left and right to the United States scale of left and right. If you, left and right in America is a right-wing person wants to conserve the Constitution, as stated before.
yeah,
A person on the left wants to adopt, especially the far left, socialistic or fascistic ideologies.
yes,
They don't like the Constitution. They don't. They'll use it.
yeah,
To achieve their means. They don't like. You look at the writings of Richard Spencer, the leader of the alt-right. He's not right wing. He's left wing. He's a fascist.
yeah,
One of the reasons he dropped his support of Trump was Trump used their popularity to gain support as a populist, and they thought he was going to be their messiah, and he got rid of every single one of them, including Stephen Bannon, systematically. So he used him and dropped him. It was pretty smart, actually. They hate his guts now and have for quite some time. In fact, Richard Spencer has come out and said he made a mistake, and then he's going for Biden because they're Richard Spencer, the alt-right. They're all left. They're far left. Same with neo-Nazis. It's all left.
yeah.
It's all
Because those are the ones that can control.
correct. So, and then someone on the far left in the American scale is someone who wants socialism, communism, Marxism.
Yes.
So you have your fascists and your Marxists on the left, and they want total control. You have small government, liberty-minded people on the right who want to conserve the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. So that's what we have here. So I just wanted to clear up that scale of left and right, because you see it on the news thrown all the time.
Yes.
Right-wing white supremacists. No, they're right-wing on the European scale, but you can't say that like some guy who, is a conservative and has a biblical worldview and loves the Constitution in America is the same as a neo-Nazi. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Yes, absolutely.
Fundamentally ridiculous.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Communism seeks to... Karl Marx seeks to have everyone be equal. Okay.
Isn't that something we've been hearing right now? How
yes, equality
for everybody. Equality.
The goal is a classless society.
Yep.
No respect to gender, race, anything like that. Everyone is equal.
Values.
But like the pigs in Animal Farm said, when some of the other animals noticed in George Orwell's book, Animal Farm, they said, they had problems with the way things were going, and they said, but all animals are equal. And he said, well, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. There is no such thing as a classless society.
No. Utopia doesn't exist.
No, and communism doesn't exist. There isn't a country on the face of the earth that has ever successfully gotten past socialism.
Because you can't.
We've never even had communism. Just like no one alive today has ever experienced true free market capitalism. Okay, because since the early progressive era, they've been putting little bits of socialism and fascism here and there to the point where you don't recognize what's going on. That the country's been poisoned since the early 1900s. You don't recognize that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
So communism focuses on, global equality. They want it to be a global movement. Fascism tends to be more nationalistic, which there's nothing wrong with being nationalistic, and that you want the best for your country, your people. That's just normal.
Yeah.
But where fascism tends to have severe problems and implications is that when they ultimately spread out on a conquest to better themselves, they want everyone else that they conquer to adopt their nationalistic views. So, historically, they all go for conquest.
Yeah.
Communism, they want the world to be communist. Germany, they wanted the world to be German. Their culture and society is the best.
Yep.
So really the differences aren't that different.
No.
They're basically the same. And the reason it's difficult to tell the difference between the two is because they so interconnect with different things that like practicing Jews were persecuted in the Soviet Empire. Other minority groups were persecuted in the Soviet Empire.
Yeah.
It's human nature to be sinful.
Yep.
And to view yourself as more elite.
That's one thing I think people don't realize is that people want this utopian society and everything will be fine as long as everybody just gives a little bit. And what they don't realize is that that's fine up until the first person you get that doesn't want to give and only wants to take.
Exactly.
And then there's another one, and then there's another one, and then there's another one, and then before you know it, people are working for other people who are just taking, and then the people who are working decide that they've had enough of it, and then the whole system collapses. That is the problem. That's one of the fundamental problems with these things.
Correct. And there's always some kind of dictator with an evil heart who seizes the opportunity. You know, and one of the concepts of communism is that people are naturally good. It's only their environment that changes them into a bad person, but they're basically good. Well, that's nonsense.
Yes. A utopian society doesn't exist, and with all forms of government, you're going to have corruption. It's
every
just
single one.
Even the one we have, there's corruption. Of course, there's corruption. That's just the way it is. That we live in a world that is not perfect, and we're never just going to stop. You just can't do that. There's always going to be somebody who wants more than everybody else.
Exactly. So, a little history. You know, Lenin led the revolution. You know, in Russia, and you know, they overthrew the czars, the monarchy at the time, and you know, and in my research, they made it sound like, because it's harder and harder to just Google something anymore.
Yeah.
And actually find historical facts, especially
with all the fact checking and going on, and
especially when if you know the actual website or address, you'll find it easy. But if you're going through a Google search, it's hard to find a lot, and every day it gets worse, and worse and worse. So a little history. Did you ever see the Disney movie Anastasia? I mean,
maybe way back when.
Long time ago.
Yeah, maybe
it's
way back when.
It's actually a really good movie. Obviously, the royal family was killed. They said, you know, and in the movie, the Anastasia gets away. Well, in real life, they killed everybody, including Anastasia.
Yeah.
So she was a young, innocent girl. It wasn't her fault who she was born to. So I don't know. That sounds pretty prejudiced to me.
Yeah.
But so they were all shot.
Well, because there was a potential threat there. That's the way it seems to be going now with what's going on. It doesn't matter if one side, or at least, all right, I don't want to say one side, but some people, some organizations, you know, or if you don't agree with them, that's it. You're immediately their enemy.
Yes.
Which, don't get me wrong, is a Sith line of thought, and I do respect the Sith, but that's something that doesn't really work in the real world. You can't just and in this country, we live in a country that's meant for debate, meant for disagreement. That's what we were founded on. Our founding fathers used to yell and scream at each other about what to do, and when they were doing the Constitution.
Until they prayed, and then they settled down.
And then they settled down and compromised and came together to come up with the Constitution of our United States.
Yes, and it was the best system in the history of mankind.
Yes.
So, basically, okay. So in communism, no one owns anything.
Yeah.
Okay, the state owns it. You don't get to decide where you work. They decide what you're good at.
They distribute the means.
Put you there.
Yeah, they control the means. Yep.
Okay, how many kids do you have? Well, this is how much you get. You know, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And don't disagree with them.
Because what happens?
Yeah, they'll kill you. So,
in the street.
Yeah. Or they'll send you to a prison to work.
Yep.
Fascism, you know, same thing, except you can own your own business, you can own property, but they'll take it from you if you speak out against them in any way, shape, or form. And your property, your business is still to benefit the state. It's not to benefit you. It's not to benefit your family. It's not to benefit your friends, even your local community. It's all about the state. So those things are they're very different, but they're very similar at the same time.
Yeah.
They intersect. Basically, the problem with both things is that you don't exist. You're a problem. Fall in line.
Or be killed. Yeah. It's So let me play devil's advocate here for a minute. What about the people? I'll be the other side since we don't have anybody who would argue the counterpoints here. So what about people who will say, well, what about Social Security?
Socialist security? Yeah, I would say that, I mean, here's the thing about Social Security. If people weren't taxed to death,
yeah,
they could get more jobs. They could make more money. And it's basically, okay, you're paying into something.
Yes.
Right. And then the government kind of holds that money for you and invests it. Well, now they're saying, oh, well, if the current president gets his tax cut and makes it permanent, we'll run out of Social Security money in 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, hold on a minute. What have you been doing with it? What have you been doing with the Social Security?
It's been going bankrupt for years.
For years. For a very long time. They dip into it whenever they need it for whatever reason.
Yes.
And without your consent, without your representation.
But you do have to say that Social Security is a program that is very useful, especially for older people and stuff like that, and even someone like myself.
And they pay into it. You've paid into it.
Yes, I have worked.
You didn't spend your entire life paying into it like some of these people, and then you're ready to retire, and it's like, well, wait a minute, what?
Yeah. But I'm one of the few people who also use the money, set up the podcast. I'm trying to make something for myself, whereas I think there are people who get government assistance who are just abusing it and not using it the way it's supposed to be.
Correct.
But Social Security, being that it did work, it does help a lot of people. But I think what you're about to get to is, are you about to get to like private accounts and stuff for people?
Yeah, I mean, well, no.
Or giving people access to their Social Security money in different ways.
Yeah. Like, okay, the Amish, they don't pay Social Security.
Yeah.
Because they don't use it. They take care of their elderly. They take care of their infirmed. How do they do it?
Yeah.
Well, they're moral enough to take care of their elderly.
Yeah.
To take care of their infirmed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, bottom line with that is, if we were a moral people, there wouldn't even be a need for it. And another thing is that if income tax and many taxes were lifted and just taken away, you wouldn't have as hard a time finding a job.
Maybe.
Oh, I can almost guarantee it.
It's a possibility.
When you free up money, it gives you the
I
opportunity to...
I think that people with that pay into Social Security and stuff, they should have access to their money before they actually need it. They should be able to invest their money in the stock market or wherever they would
just
like
like
to.
A 401k.
Exactly.
Not at the behest of whatever the government feels like using it behind closed doors.
And being that if that's something you would do, where you would give people access to their own Social Security money that they're paying in and allowing them to invest it and stuff, then I would think that teaching kids in school how the stock market and how the market works, something financial
Teach
to
them applying for a job.
I think schools have gotten too ridiculous. Not enough about life. It's not about school. Is not about learning about how to live life anymore. It's about learning some curriculum that people just. I would have loved. I mean, I remember I took economics in 10th grade for half of a year.
Right.
I would have loved, now knowing what I know now, I wish that I would have had an economics class every year through high school.
Correct. And also, you'll hear the argument, well, do you like roads? Yeah, private companies build roads.
Now, see, this is where
if there's a need, the free market takes care of it. You don't have to have the government allot money and say, we're going to build a road here. Trust me, people want roads. They always have. And as technology increases, you don't need, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, listen, I would probably disagree with you a little bit on taxes, because I think that things like where people paying for roads and stuff, I don't necessarily wouldn't have a problem with that. That's just
right. And
that's part of the cost of doing business. You know what I mean?
Right.
But of course, we are taxed. People are taxed in school districts. They get school tax that don't even have kids in schools.
Or their kids aren't even being educated. But
properly.
A couple days a week, and they're still paying their property tax.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. And of course, property tax. You get taxed for owning a piece of property. Well, that's a little bit ridiculous.
So,
I could see sales tax on when you buy a piece of property.
Right.
But why are you paying taxes on a property that you already own? That doesn't really make sense to me. But there's a lot of taxes that could go that could be better.
Taxes, if you don't
then they take it.
Property taxes, then they take it.
Yes.
So what does that sound like?
Yes.
Fascism. Right.
Yeah. All right. Now, what about police, fire? People, because I've heard that argument too.
Right.
Police. Well, what about police and fire? You like the police coming here? Well, guess what? That's not socialism, and Gavin's going to explain us that right now.
Well, it's not socialism, because you're paying for a service.
Yeah,
through your
exactly.
Taxes.
Yeah. It's a service.
So, personally, what I would like to see is, in the same way that the county sheriff is an elected official and has deputies, okay?
Yeah.
I would like to see more sheriff action than local police departments.
That's not a bad idea, being that sheriffs are elected.
Right, because
I think that would be. I think that's a really good idea, actually.
The sheriff, people don't know this, but the sheriff in his own county is the highest law of the land. He's the highest law enforcement officer in his own county. So the county should, because he's an elected official.
Yeah.
So, like, say the FBI wants to do a raid or something. Have you ever noticed who accompanies them? It's the county sheriff.
Yeah.
They can't do business in that county without
the sheriff's
approval and go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how it was set up on purpose.
Yeah.
So that the local county can check the federal government.
Checks and balance.
Balance.
Whoever thought of something so absurd?
Our ridiculous founding fathers.
Yeah.
Who saw things coming.
Yes.
1,000 miles away.
Yeah. Some things they definitely saw some things that because like you're saying now. I mean, they got rid of all the county sheriffs. There's not a whole lot of county sheriffs now. It's all local police departments and.
Yeah, I mean every county has a sheriff, but it's. I'd like to see an expansion of them,
as opposed to local police.
Right.
Yeah, counties should be.
And I don't have anything against local police, except, it is pretty fascistic when you, for example, you can, just for the sake of getting funding, set up a sting operation, talk somebody into doing something that they say they don't want to do, and then when they finally do it, you bust them for it, and then you get money.
Well,
that's ridiculous. That's not law enforcement.
Yeah,
that's just making.
And also changing some of the drug policy would obviously help the police also.
Right.
So that they're not arresting people who aren't necessarily doing anything to anybody else.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like, okay, when the firemen come,
you
usually have to pay for it. So
I've heard that sometimes they get like a bill, like a fire bill.
Yeah, you get a bill.
Yeah.
And when the police come to get somebody, that person goes to jail. That's their,
and then they get fees.
And then they get fines,
yeah,
and court costs, and all that. So it's not the same at all.
No,
it's not a form of socialism. You have to have law enforcement. There are laws. You have to have law enforcement. my issues, not with the police specifically, but with some of the laws.
With some of the laws that they're
constitutional.
Yes, with some of the laws that they're asked to enforce.
Right.
Yes.
And I think one of the reasons that
and I think that's what a lot of
people today are so disenfranchised with the system is that they've never known a free system. They don't know what it's supposed to be like.
Yeah.
So they look at, see, this whole thing's a failure. Well, no, it's not. It's that since the early 1900s, they've introduced so much of the nonsense, so much of the European ideology that, well, yeah. Like, for example, one of the things that makes fascism distinct is that because you can own your own business, right? There's a merging of the corporation, the business, and the government. They merge together, okay? So they're independent but working together. Not the government owns the business, but essentially. Okay, so when we see lobbyists working with the government and representatives and pushing things and donating money and all that, that's fascism. It is.
Yeah.
You know, like, and people say, well, what about the NRA? Well, you know, it's sad that we have to pay people to lobby for us, to our own representatives, just to get them to follow the Constitution. That's a shame.
Yes.
So, I don't like it. And not a big fan of the NRA either, because they actually don't follow the Constitution to the letter when it comes to gun rights.
Yeah.
You know, they were in support of universal background checks, and they'd say, no, we're not. Yeah, well, we actually are. I'm just not a big fan of that. So there's things, you know, that's not really socialism.
No.
Not even close.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a silly argument.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And now anybody who gets that argument knows how to counter that argument with the information we just gave them. Because,
yeah. And it's like, you know, do you, how can you possibly compare full-blown socialism with having local municipalities? It's not the same. Yeah. It's not at all. You know.
And even most of those taxes, as they were, are, like you said, are more for services.
Right.
Just like if you have a trash bill. So I mean, guess what? Even if you don't have a trash bill, then your landlord has a trash bill.
Right.
And that's something you pay for. You pay for someone to come and pick up your trash.
Yeah. Like, okay, I have a well.
Yeah.
At my house. So I don't use the water.
Yep.
I don't use city water. Well, because I don't use city water, I don't pay for city water. Socialism would be more like, I don't use city water, but I still have to pay for it.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like, here's an example of socialism. I have to pay, when I pay for my trash, there's an add-on fee, okay, for drainage, storm drainage, okay?
Okay.
And the biggest problem with that is inflow and infiltration, okay? You have, and that's actually something I do for a living. I stop inflow and infiltration into manholes, wet wells, you know, places where we store crap until it goes to the plant.
Yeah.
So what's happening is that you get these leaks, and you know, there's manholes all over the place. I mean, you'd be amazed at how many holes there are on the ground.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. He, she, it holes. I didn't mean to offend anyone. It's the size for a man or woman or binary to fit into. Anyway,
I actually think the man and manhole would refer more to like human manhole.
Human. Yeah. Well, are we really human?
Human hole.
I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
Because what we're experiencing is called cultural Marxism.
Yeah.
Change everything that we think, believe, and know to be true, even if science says it's true.
Yep. That we'll say that
Changed
for
all to where we don't know anything. We can't stand on anything.
Yeah.
And say, okay, this is a fact. So then when you're in that state, you can be lied to so easily and just grasp for anything. So anyway, that's what we've been set up for. That's a discussion for another time.
Yes. We'll definitely get that on another episode.
So the infiltration, water gets in there, and they're treating water mixed with the sewage that comes from the rain and things like that. So I got to pay an extra fee. It's not much, but I'm just using it. That's an example. Well, all my drainage goes into my ground, into my drain field.
Yeah.
I don't use it. Why am I paying for it?
Yep.
Oh, well, everybody's got to pay their fair share.
It would be like
but I don't use it.
Yep.
That's like I have to pay for somebody else to get a gallon of milk, and I'm lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yep.
But anyway, I digress.
Now, what about the people who say that it's not just that we only need partial socialism, that it's the billionaires who make too much money, and that if they just gave a little bit more, then everybody could be happy?
Well, they pay actually the most taxes. So.
And to anybody who's about to use, they use the tax loopholes. Well, then write to your representative and have them close the loopholes. That's how we accomplish that.
Or I would just say, good for them. Congratulations.
But what as I'm saying is if you oppose that,
right.
then
if you oppose that,
if you don't like some of these millionaires and big corporations making the money that they do, then you should write letters to your representatives, your governors, your senators, and tell them that you don't like that they can get through the tax loopholes and have them change it. But you shouldn't be mad at the guy who's making the money or made the business that people want to use, and therefore he's making money off of it.
And all the wealthy people left and right use all the tax loopholes.
Yeah.
You're an idiot if you don't.
Yeah, and even poor people still use tax loopholes. They maybe not have as many.
I use every single tax break I can get.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
I'd be a fool.
Exactly.
Nobody in their right mind.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's somebody out there, but they're not in their right mind.
Yeah.
Nobody in their right mind says, oh, I'm getting $1,300 back. I'll tell you what, is there any way I can just donate that to the government to do whatever they see fit?
Yeah.
No, they want it back.
Yeah, they want it back because we can spend our money better than they can.
Yes, I know what I want to do with my money.
I don't want to put too fine a point on it here, everybody, but I'm just going to, reference the space program and how when the government opened up the ability to make rockets and stuff to the private investor, there were companies that wanted to do it because all I heard at the time that's why the government has to do it, because private companies aren't going to. Well, you're wrong. Because they did. As soon as we opened it up, there were two companies that went right in all the way, said, give us it and we'll have a rocket ready in a few years. And then SpaceX just launched, just a couple months ago, just this spring, launched their shuttle.
No, they didn't, John.
What? Yeah, they did.
No, it didn't really happen.
Oh, it didn't happen?
It doesn't fit with my narrative. I know it's a fact. And you can prove it verifiably with video.
Yeah, with video.
Eyewitnesses. All those sorts of things. Cash transactions. Lifelong work.
A bunch of personnel on the ship when it landed.
You can prove it all.
Yeah.
But I still won't believe it because it doesn't... It proves something wrong that I desperately hold on to.
Yep, absolutely.
Note obvious dripping sarcasm.
Yes, obviously. If people didn't notice that.
SpaceX,
went up to the space station and came back.
Incredibly awesome.
Yeah, they did. It was great. It was something we didn't get to see in a while. Is launching some
in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, in the middle of the pandemic, they still went through with it. They said, "No, we're going."
Yep, that's pretty cool.
And now they're going to be doing commercial flights. So to say that the private industry isn't going, private industry won't take care of certain things is just ridiculous.
Right.
Of course,
like I
now,
said with roads,
of course, now that the government is doing a lot of it, there's no reason for them to. But
right, yeah. So
yeah, like you were saying with roads, you were using roads as an example. That's something that I would say probably still needs to stay on the government, but there's a lot of things that don't need to be as well. There's just as many things that don't need to be as well. And the millionaires, the people who don't like millionaires, they don't like our free market economy. It's because people use their products. Someone had an idea or they made something that people want to use or can use, and therefore they're willing to pay for it. That's how a free market works. Why shouldn't they? If they had the idea and they executed it, then why aren't they entitled to as much money as they can make?
Exactly.
It's their idea. Why? That's what our country was founded upon, freedom.
Right. And yeah, and I completely agree.
Yeah, if you don't like Amazon, then don't use Amazon, and encourage all of your friends and family, and start encouraging your community to not use Amazon. That's how you do it.
And if you really want the senators and your representatives to close these tax loopholes, go ahead, get them to do it, and then watch all those businesses and their money go someplace else.
Yeah, look what happened in California.
Yeah.
California just decided to make all those rich corporations pay their fair share, with air quotation marks there, everybody. And then what happened?
Well,
they all left.
They left and went to more
Texas
freedom,
to be
freedom-loving states.
I don't want to put too fine a point on our point there either, but they went to Texas.
Right.
Or at least many of them that have left went to Texas.
Yeah.
Okay. Including
Texas, Oklahoma.
Including Joe Rogan, who just signed a huge deal with Spotify. And then when he saw how much California was going to take, what did he do? He moved.
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan is one of the more, he likes to call himself more of a conservative, but he's definitely a little bit more of a progressive than he is a conservative. He's conservative some things, but he
is becoming more conservative.
Yes, he is. Yes,
every
he
day
is.
Because he's seeing,
yes,
okay, this is where this madness is going.
And he actually has a brain in his head.
Right.
Shout out Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
But look what he did. He said, "You're not taking all this money from me, and I'm leaving." And
right.
Where did he go? He went to Texas. Apparently, Texas has better tax laws than California.
Definitely, it's and the people
and New York.
The people of Texas, I've heard them say this often. You're welcome here, but leave the ideas that made you come here. Leave them where they were. Don't come here and ruin it for them. That's what the people of Texas have said over and over and over again.
Yep.
So a little history. Lenin led the revolution. So for a little while, the Soviet Union appeared to be successful. They seemed to be getting close to reaching communism. It was basically the uprising of peasants and the workers. And they would have their collective farms and in their communities, and they would share everything. And we know how that goes. You got a couple guys doing all the work.
Yep.
And then you got these guys. Oh, I didn't make it today, but they still eat.
Yep.
Okay. So, when you have people doing all the work, and the other people just living off of people doing all the work, the people doing all the work start to get tired.
Yes.
Start to get wore out. Start to say, why am I doing this?
Exactly.
I could just be like that guy.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's how the whole thing collapses. So,
and that's why it doesn't work.
After Lenin died, there was a power struggle between a few people, and Joseph Stalin came to power. He thwarted his enemies, killed a bunch of people, came to power. That's just how things are done. And usually when they kill you, they kill your family, so there's no retribution. It's funny. It's supposed to be this,
yeah,
humanistic
utopia.
Utopia, yeah. But anyway, so
yeah, I guess it is a utopia if you kill everybody who disagrees with you.
They were. When he took control, he noticed that you have not enough food. So what he did was he took the farms from the people, made them, state-run, state-controlled. Because really that's not how Marx envisioned it. But Marx never really said fully exactly how to implement it. So communism's up for interpretation. There's different forms, you know.
Yeah.
Same with fascism. There's different forms of it.
Yeah.
You know. So there wasn't enough food. So nationalize all the farms. So, and then he incorporated like a state-run capitalism. And then throughout Russia's history, through their Soviet Union history, every time their socialistic views and practices brought them to the verge of collapse, the solution was always introducing a little bit of capitalism. I think in the 70s it was called perestroika. Okay? It's like a... By the way, there is no Russian word for compromise. But it was sort of like a compromise.
Yeah.
So we'll do this. Okay? We'll have this. We'll let people have some things for themselves. And then they would thrive again. And then somebody would come to power and say, that's not true communism. And then
Yeah.
we're never going to get there. Because nobody has ever gotten there.
Because you can't. The human spirit, the human
You have
the human
people that
the
will
human
take
problem.
Yeah. You'll have people that take advantage of it. And then you have people that will just say, I don't want any part of this. I want my own dreams.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a farmer. I want to be a scientist.
Yeah.
Well, you have to be a farmer. No,
Yeah.
I don't want to be a farmer. I want to be a scientist. I want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not smart enough to be a doctor. Our Common Core data mining didn't say that you were smart enough to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Yes, that's an attack on Common Core. Communist Core, yes. I don't like it. It's disgusting and it's ridiculous. And it's a failure. But anyway.
Yeah. The way they teach math now is ridiculous.
All through the Soviet Union. Now, let's go to China. China was isolationist. The same way North Korea is. Okay, their form of communism, isolationism.
Yeah.
Conquest, you know, via satellite nations, you know, North Korea. We won the war and made South Korea independent of communism. Now they have a socialism sort of these days. It's not exactly a free country, but it's freer than North Korea, obviously.
Yeah, but how big a check do we write to South Korea?
Right. A lot of blood.
Yeah.
So, North Korea, South Korea, Vietnam. Okay? Same situation, only one thing. We declared war and went all in, and we won. With Vietnam, it was rules of engagement. Oh, and we had a lot of Marxists in the government that thwarted every attempt to win. So, you know, so anyway, China, I digress. China would use other countries, send political radicals in there to turn it over, and then, you know, then expand their influence. But, you know, what really made China the biggest superpower? State-run capitalism.
Yeah, that's true.
Come here, do business here. We'll let you do business here. People aren't going to make much money. Our people aren't going to make much money. But
you
boy,
can
our
make...
government will make a lot of money.
Yeah.
You can make
bring
a
your
lot of money.
Yeah, you bring your business
and we'll
here.
make a lot of money. And the people they'll play along. We'll do what we say, because if not, we just throw them in prison or kill them.
Yeah.
So they've become a superpower because they've utilized capitalism. It's not really a free market system. It's capitalism.
Yeah.
But it's state-run capitalism.
Yeah.
So now this is just my opinion. I don't know what global Marxism is going to look like, but I imagine it'll look something like China's system. It's the only way to run the whole world into the ground.
Yeah.
You're not going to do it with the Cuban system, the Venezuelan form of whatever they're doing. I mean, that was a disaster quick.
Yeah, that fell apart real quick.
You take an oil-rich country and turn them socialist, and within 10 years, people eating out of dumpsters, and I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, honestly, when you compare it to our free market system,
yeah,
with our Bill of Rights, I want to know why people with the history that is still out there about, and it's happening right before our eyes in Venezuela.
Yes.
It's not like, oh, that was a long time ago, we can lie about it in history, but it's happening right now.
People are seeing it happen right now across cities.
And they still want it. Yeah, Chaz fell apart. Why did Chaz fall apart? Because you got Marxist and anarchist communists. They just want to start shit and burn things to the ground. They want to skip a couple steps. They don't get along. There's no order. They don't know how to even do it.
Yep.
I saw footage of their gardens. It was ridiculous.
Yep.
It all fell apart.
CNN made those gardens out to be something pretty spectacular, and then when they got them on camera, it was like this small little, barely anything was growing. Like, what?
They were growing
this is your
things
community
that
garden?
don't even have food.
Yeah.
Oh, here's some flowers.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. It doesn't even work. Communism never works. So they switch to more. Now, if you take state-run capitalism, is it really communism or is that more fascism? That's the question.
Yeah.
When you merge businesses with the government, that's fascism, right? So, and I think it's interesting when people say that Donald Trump is a fascist.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say I can't stand the guy. Right? Let's say I don't support him. Okay. The definition, by definition, of fascist, he's proven time and time again through his deeds that he's not racist.
Yeah. And his words.
But if, like Hitler said, if you say a lie long enough and
yep, and just keep repeating it, people will eventually believe it. Yep.
The dumb ones, or the tired ones, or exhausted ones, whatever they are. Okay, here's what kind of monstrous dictator he is. Coronavirus hits. He recommends we take a 2-week pause.
After the Democrats have already called him xenophobic for shutting down the country.
Of course. He was xenophobic when he wanted to shut down the country. Now the whole thing's his fault. So
yep.
Anyway,
absolutely.
Yes, but, okay. Coronavirus was a big emergency, correct?
Well,
right?
That's what they said,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. And it was in every state. When it got to every state, he could have declared every single state a national disaster, and taken complete control.
Which is what some people actually wanted him to do at the time. Yeah, that's what they wanted him to do.
They were begging him to do it. Take control.
Yes.
Take it. And he said, no.
No, that's not how we do it.
That's for governors, and I want to give you guys the right.
I was so shocked.
We'll give you what you need, but you do it the way you want to do it.
That was, I think, what shocked me the most about President Trump. I think was that a crisis happened, and he didn't use a power grab. He didn't want the power.
Nope, didn't want
it
at all.
Listen. He said, this is not how it works. He said, governors, a governor is an executive position.
Correct.
They have executive power over their state the way the president has executive power over the country.
And they're elected to do so.
Yes. So
as long
that's
as they
exactly
don't violate the Constitution,
yes,
they're allowed
within the Constitution.
Within the Constitution.
But that's exactly what he was supposed to do. That's what our system is meant for, is for the states to handle things themselves. Just the state works with the local government, and that's how it works. And then if they need help, the federal government is there, and that's what a governor is supposed to do. Call the president, say, hey, Mr. President, I need some help here. Can you help me out?
Right.
That's how that is literally, I want everybody to pay attention if you're watching this. That is so exactly what our Constitution says is supposed to happen. That's exactly
and
what it is.
You remember Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, and I hate that he shares my name, Gavin Newsom, governor of California.
Yeah.
Said Trump is great. He's
Yeah,
really helping
they did.
out. And he met with them, and they put all their political differences aside, ideological differences, everything, and worked with those. Now he killed everybody. It's his fault. So,
Yep.
because he didn't become the dictator that they were begging him to be.
Yeah.
And now they're calling him a dictator still.
Yep.
And
now he's crashed the economy. He did it.
Yeah, he did it.
It's his
fault.
Even though anybody in the market knows that, even though it's down and it's a little volatile right now, you're certainly not losing all your money yet.
And the thing is, let's blame Trump for what the Federal Reserve is doing.
Yeah.
The president has no power over the Federal Reserve. He can say, "Hey guys, knock it off," but that's one of our biggest problems.
Yeah.
Not only in America, but in the entire world, is the Federal Reserve. Okay, they're just. I mean, I don't know if you saw the article a couple months ago. They're going to allow inflation to arise to stimulate growth. No. No, inflation's gone up because they just spent trillions and trillions and trillions. And I don't think people understand what $1 trillion is. Like what an actual trillion is.
And I want you to think about how many.
Count to $1 trillion.
What
Please,
was?
I'll see you on the other side.
Do you know what the number of the relief package was?
Dude, I've lost count.
I can't remember what the exact number of the relief package was, but it was a few billion at least, right? What, $1 or $2 billion at least? The first care package, the first package, the one that we got all the $1,200.
You mean of our own money back?
Yeah.
And then some people still haven't gotten it, and then like all the PPP loans that didn't go where they were supposed to go.
But think about that. If you got a $1,200 check, because if you gave everybody a $1,200 check in the country, it wouldn't equal the amount that the care package was.
I think it was $6 trillion.
That sounds about right, actually. I think you're right. $6 trillion.
Yeah.
I do think you're right. That sounds about right to me. $6 trillion. So they spent $6 trillion. And I think it costs. I don't know this for sure. You guys, somebody can look this up. You can look up your own facts if you're watching this show. But I'm pretty sure that if you gave everybody in the country $1,200, it would only be just over $2 billion or something like that. I think it was.
Now, granted, I got more because I have kids.
Yeah.
So there's like $500 for each kid or whatever.
But I mean,
even then, people don't realize what $1 trillion is. So now everybody's dumping our bonds. They don't want to invest in our treasuries. They don't want to invest in our debt. It's showtime.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's not good. So, so let's talk a little bit about Antifa.
All right.
Okay. You might not know this, but Antifa's been around for a very long time. Since 1932, to be precise. They're a communist group that fought against Hitler's regime. They were all wiped out until they were non-existent, but they're, it's called anti-fascistic action. Action is spelled with a K because it's German.
Yeah.
So they've been around for a very long time. But what we have Antifa today, first of all, they are fascists. If you go by the definition of how a fascist behaves, that's another thing about Trump. You have all these riots. It's a Marxist revolution.
Yeah.
He could have constitutionally invoked the Insurrection Act.
Yeah.
Because it is an insurrection.
Yeah.
I mean, they admit this. They say insurrection now.
I was on the side.
I was like, dude, can you just get rid of these people?
Yeah.
And that's what they want. And he knows
so they could paint him with the brush.
So if he was
actually
dictator,
and you're right, even though he did have the authority to do it, he still did constitutionally what he was supposed to do. Let it in the hands of the governors, and if they needed help, they could have asked the federal government for it.
And the only reason the FPS, ATF, and ICE were in those areas was to protect government buildings.
Yeah.
They would arrest people. If they saw them doing something, charge them, release them to the local authorities. That's it. You know that, and thank God we have these guys that go in and infiltrate these groups and actually videotape things so we can know the truth.
Yeah.
Because if you watch the news, you know, oh, they're throwing people in unmarked vehicles. Well, yeah, they're unmarked. They're federal protective services. Okay, they're there to protect the federal buildings, federal courthouses that are being attacked. So,
yeah, because the nonviolent riots are.
They're not riots; they're protests.
For some, oh yes, that's right. The nonviolent protesting is burning down the courthouse for some reason.
Right. So, what we see here is, you know, okay, Antifa, and BLM, and I'm not afraid to say this. They say they're self-avowed Marxists. We are trained Marxists. That's a quote. Fortunately I screenshot before they changed their manifesto again, because they're not as popular as they were the other month. They had more approval rating than the military. Now they're down to like 20% approval rating. So anyway, because people are like, wait a minute, you guys are full of crap. The black community doesn't want anything to do with them.
Well, at least some of them.
Well, most of them.
Yeah.
Most of them don't. Only 17% of BLM activists are black.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the hierarchy is, but...
Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
Most of the people doing the protesting are white. Okay?
I like how they call it... What are the... what's the new one out? What are they called? The Justice Boys or something? What are they called?
Proud Boys.
The Proud Boys.
Yeah,
and
who I never would have even known about. I didn't even know who they were.
Yeah, no, neither did I.
Less.
A buddy asked me about them the other day, and I said, I don't even know who that is, yo. I don't even know who that is. And then he told me, and then I looked it up, and I like how they're being called racists and stuff when their hierarchy. Yeah, they're white supremacists, but their hierarchy. Yeah, their hierarchy is very not white. So I don't really see how that could be.
Yeah, but Donald Trump's a racist, even though Joe Biden utilized, Senator Byrd, who was a very high in the KKK.
Yeah.
But it's okay. He changed his ways when everybody found out. But it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, what Antifa and BLM doesn't know, at least the street soldiers, the foot soldiers don't know.
Yeah.
Is that they're literally cannon fodder. They're being used, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
By global Marxists, okay? By the big guys with all the money that are pumping it into this revolution, this color revolution that we're seeing. And by color, I don't mean race. I'm talking a color revolution. It's a tactic that our government has used in the Arab Spring, in Georgia, not the state of Georgia, the country of Georgia.
Yeah.
The Ukraine. We tried it in Russia, failed because Putin. I mean, he's ex-KGB.
Yeah.
He knows what's going on, So, and the goal is complete unrest, and it's going to get worse. They've promised that. So, you have these people out there causing problems, coming from the bottom, rising up, so that the top can come down. So let's do another history lesson. All right, the brown shirts in Hitler's Germany. Okay, the brown shirts, they were the Nazis. They were his big, loyal supporters. They went around rioting for years, beating people up. People were hanging Nazi flags in their businesses just so they could say, hey, we're on board, leave us alone.
Yep.
Just like you see now, Black Lives Matter, or this is a black-owned business, please, have mercy, I saw.
Yeah.
Have mercy.
Yeah,
Can you imagine that?
because minority businesses are getting burned down more with all the riots and everything going on than...
Right.
And that's like you're burning down your own neighborhoods. That no part of that makes sense.
Right. So, And then the brown shirts, they just were absolutely horrible, you know, beating people, burning things down, rioting, making life absolute hell. And they supported Adolf Hitler. Well, on what's historically known as the Night of Long Knives, he killed them all. And they were so grateful for getting rid of these people that they announced him Chancellor the next day. He said, I know what I did was wrong, but I had to do it. And then they were like, yes, we get it. And then he took control. So, historically speaking, and it didn't just happen in Hitler's Germany, this happens in all these revolutions. The people involved, you stupid Antifa people, you stupid BLM people, you will be killed or imprisoned. And it won't be by us on the right who are conservatives and just want everybody to get along and just live their
and
lives
be free,
and make some money and hopefully have a retirement. To, you know, just want to live our lives, see our grandchildren someday. That's you. If you actually get what you want, what you actually are crying for, if it comes to pass, you're done. So my suggestion to you is to stop now and go get a real job. Stop being a paid protester. Stop all this stuff. Because you're literally asking for your own demise. Because everybody's getting fed up with it. And then somebody's going to, you know, eventually say, hey, we got what we wanted, so now there's no rights or anything. And then you're all going to be, the hammer's going to come down on you. So just knock it off. For your own sakes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sick of you. Everybody's sick of you. But for your own sakes, just stop.
Yeah.
Go home. Get a job like everybody else.
This election will be very telling for where this country's going to go. And I think I don't want to be out there saying it too much because the other side, the left side, the Democrats are already saying how ahead Joe Biden is in the polls and all this. But, you know, the thing that they don't notice is that there was a poll about, I saw a poll about people, whether or not they're commenting about their political affiliation and stuff online. And most Republicans are not out there commenting right now because it's so crazy. They don't want any part of it. They're just saving their vote for election day. And when Donald Trump gets voted back into office, that'll be their you know, fuck you,
right,
so to speak. You know what I mean? Because I mean, right now you can't be out there. You got to be careful about being out there and who you support because you know you could end up getting shot in the head in the street.
Right, or even something minor like your car being keyed or something like that.
Yeah, and that's
just
what's
being screamed at. You know, that's that. Who's doing all the screaming?
Who is doing the screaming right now, and who's saying, you know, if you're not with me, you're against me. It
sounds kind of fascistic.
Yeah, it sounds pretty dangerous too.
Yeah,
to be giving people ultimatums. Most Americans don't really care for that.
No, eventually they get tired of it and they don't like it anymore.
Yeah, the king tried that one too many times, and
and that was just over a 2%.
Tax. Yeah, that was just over some taxes.
Yeah, taxes, and you know, we wanted to break away from the Church of England.
Yep.
I mean, not a lot of big things.
It's pretty serious. It's getting pretty serious right now.
Yeah. So
this election's going to be pretty important. You should get out there, make sure you register, and you should go vote.
Yes, and if you're voting for Biden, please go to the polls and vote for Biden. If that's who you're voting for, you know, your mind's made up, whatever.
Go to the polls.
Do a mail-in vote.
Do not do mail-in voting.
I am begging you, make sure your vote counts.
Yes, go to the polls.
If you need to rationalize it to yourself, say, well, I don't trust the Republicans.
Yeah.
Whatever you got to do to tell yourself to get you to actually go out there and stand in line like you would at Walmart or Giant or at the bank or whatever, you know, wherever you normally go to the polls, vote in person, make sure your vote is counted. Because what's going to happen if there isn't a landslide in either direction is civil war.
Yeah.
Even if there's a landslide in Trump's direction, there'll be civil war.
There could be, yeah. Well, or at least
They've already said so.
Some form of a civil war. I don't know how long it would last, or
I don't know.
Guess we'll find out on election day. It's going to be, I'm thinking about doing a show on election night also. Stay tuned for that. I'll keep everybody who's watching posted on that. If I do a show on election night, I might do that.
So, I mean, I really want to reach out to people that, believe in democratic socialism, and think that that's somehow different, like it's more nicey. Why would you even flirt with it? It never ends up being good. Freedom is a very valuable thing. It's not as valuable as time, but freedom is an incredibly valuable commodity that most of the world doesn't get to experience, and the rest of the world is watching us, and they're freaking out.
Yeah.
Because if we fall, they fall. So, there's lots of leaders from other countries that are just like,
waiting for
what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And our enemies are like, yes. Here we go.
Yep.
It's working. And so. Karl Marx was a madman. We'll get more on that later. Why anybody would follow those philosophies is beyond me, but I understand, it's new, it's different. To you. It's not new. It's
new to you, yeah.
It's new to you.
I can understand how some people out there want this utopian society where.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I totally understand that, and I get where you're coming from with that, and that you want the wealthy to help out the poor, and I get
totally get that.
Yeah, I understand all of it.
The idea of socialism, like the idea, the concept that you want everybody to be equal.
Yeah.
And everybody.
It's a
to
noble
be happy,
idea. It's just
and everybody to be good and nice, and everything works out great.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
It's a noble idea, yeah, but it just doesn't.
And you hate poverty. And
yeah,
all that,
you can't you can't have it in this world.
It doesn't work. The only utopian society that exists will exist in the future when the Lord sets up His kingdom. That's my personal Christian beliefs.
Mine as well.
You're entitled to yours,
but right now,
keeping it secular. Look at history. Just look at history, and don't believe this nonsense of, well, they didn't do it right, or those people are psychopaths, or
you hear that
this
too.
opens the doors for a psychopath to come through and make your life a living hell. This opens the doors for that. It literally has to revolve around a centralized government. You can't get a bunch of people to agree to something so ridiculous. You have to force it.
Yeah, you do.
And then once you force it, well, you can't get a wishy-washy person to enforce it. You got to get a dictator. And I guarantee you, whoever is the meanest, nastiest dictator is the one that's going to win and become the dictator.
Yeah.
So what's he going to do to you when you decide, I was all about this revolution first, but, man, I don't like it anymore. I don't like all this crap.
Yeah.
Well, too late.
Yep.
Now you're going to have to fight against it. And all you in academia and all you people preaching for this stuff, one of the reasons they kill you guys first is because once you see, historically, this is historically speaking, once you see what you've brought on, and it wasn't this awesome thing you thought it was going to be, historically speaking, you become the most powerful dissidents against the very thing that you cried for. So they wipe you out. That's like rule book stuff. That's just Yeah, they're troublemakers, because you are troublemakers. And then once you see that, hey, this isn't what I was really thinking it was going to be, that this isn't the dream that was promised me, then you want to fight against it to try and get it back, and they can't have that. Can't have that, so they kill you. I mean, and people think, well, that wouldn't happen here. Bull crap.
Yeah, it can. If we keep going this direction, they're talking about, I heard the presidential debate, they got asked a question if they would load the court.
Yeah,
I said, what? I said, how can you even do that? We have a certain number on the court.
Well, in their defense, that's what Trump did when he came into office. He packed the courts. He got rid of the corrupt judges and put new ones in.
No, I think they were talking about specifically the Supreme Court, though. They were talking about adding seats to the Supreme Court.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. They're also talking about,
because Trump's gotten to put 3 people on the Supreme Court.
Yeah. They're also talking about lowering the age limit of the Supreme Court.
So that it's not for life?
Yeah. One of the issues, one of the things that they're talking about is if Trump wins by a landslide, to increase the riot, to invoke a civil war, California, Washington, and Oregon secede, and then they cause a bunch of problems, the activists. And then we'll stop doing it if you give us this, this, and this. Get rid of the Electoral College. There's a whole list of demands. So it's basically terrorism. We're going to do all this stuff that's uncivil. It's murderous. Yep. People are going to die.
Yep. So
that we can achieve certain goals to make the world the way we want it.
Yep. And that's what people don't understand. People are like, oh, it's time to burn it down. It's time to burn it down. Actually, no, that's not how you protest, and that's not how you're going to get... That's terrorism. You want something to change, you do peaceful protest, you get the people on your side, and then you get the government to listen to you. That's how a protest works. Burning cities to the ground is not protesting, it's rioting.
Yeah, and it's we've seen it before in history. Just maybe they weren't paying attention. And then when they got to college,
nobody taught them.
They didn't pay attention to their high school teachers when they went through world cultures or whatever it was called in your school. I assume, or civics.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't pay attention, and then they went to college, and then their professors were communists themselves, so obviously they're not going to push you think however you want to think type ideology. That's my way or the highway.
That's real dangerous too.
Is out of my class.
How many speakers are getting kicked or being prevented from speaking on campus universities now? Campus universities, people are being prevented from exercising their First Amendment right.
Correct.
That is very bad.
Yes.
That's very dangerous.
Yes, and as we see this fascistic movement of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube merging with the government's demands, people in the government, and they're also run. People need to understand.
They shouldn't be in charge of what are not as facts.
Who the Tides Foundation is, and we'll get to that on another one.
Yeah.
The Tides Foundation, Media Matters, they're pumping all the money into the media. And, of course, the guy behind it is the evil emperor himself. And I think all of this, I know all of this is an attempt to pave the road for the Antichrist, because that global Marxism or global fascism is going to be the government system of the Antichrist. One central leader, global leader.
Which is what a lot of these people that are rioting want anyway.
Yeah, 10 kingdoms. 10 leaders of those kingdoms answer to him. He turns and tears them apart. Then he, rules them completely. Everything, the buck stops with him. You have to get a chip or some kind of mark. I don't know what it is, but I imagine it would be a biometric chip. I don't know.
No, but it's
I
possible.
do know it's in your forehead and in your right hand.
Yeah.
So, where's that chip that Bill Gates keeps talking about? Where's it supposed to go?
In your right wrist.
hand?
In your wrist, or
yeah.
That's where it's most likely.
And
they've also said
in the Bible, when they say the
they've
hand,
also
they mean
said
this part.
yeah, up to your forearm, and
or your temple,
yeah,
or your head.
Yeah.
Sorry,
like above your right eyebrow or something like that.
I'm not having that.
Oh no, absolutely not. I'm not doing it either.
Even if it isn't, it's the precursor.
Yeah, I talked to your dad about that. Gavin's dad, father, who we'll also have on the show at some point in time. Hopefully, when he has some time, is a pastor, and I asked him about that, about the mark of the beast and it being this chip and stuff like that, and he said that that once it becomes the mark of the beast, it'll actually be said that. So, like, if you got it now, it's not necessarily the mark of the beast at this point.
Right,
You'll know when if it is.
You make a conscious choice.
Yes,
to be part
that's
of
what he what he
kingdom.
said. Yes, that's exactly what he said. He said you make the conscious choice to
be part
to
of
get the mark.
Part of the system.
But I'm still not going to get it anyway. It's still.
Yeah, no, I don't want any.
No, I don't want chips in me.
I don't even. And I've never been an anti-vaxxer.
No, me neither. I'm also for vaccines. However, I'm not getting the coronavirus vaccine.
No, not at all.
Nope, not even a little bit.
No. I don't need to get a vaccine for something I've had twice, and for something that, because there's 4 strains. I don't know if anybody knew that. There's 4 strains in the United States, so there's some nasty ones, got that, some mild ones.
The death rate is also less than 1% at this point. It's all the way down.
99.95% survival rate.
Yeah. Unless you have an underlying condition, and I do not. If you have an underlying condition, I completely understand why you would still be wary and why you would need to be careful. As well, you should. But for the majority, since when did we start locking up the majority for a few people?
Yeah. And, Governor Whitmer.
Oh, yeah.
Governor Wolf, Governor Cuomo.
Yeah.
You have a lot to answer for.
Yes, you do.
How did you get those horrific death rates?
And how did you get them in nursing homes?
Why were 20-year-olds in nursing homes?
Yes. Why were you shipping people with coronavirus to nursing homes?
And that's a fact. It's not an opinion. It's not a meme I just read. It's a fact.
Yes.
So, you got
in fact, Governor Whitmer right now is actually refusing Freedom of Information acts against her.
Correct.
For that.
Yes, and she's going against her own state Supreme Court that says what you're doing is unconstitutional, you can't do this, and she's saying no, I'm going to do it anyway. Well, that kind of sounds like a dictator to me.
Yep.
No, I don't believe in a rule of law except my own law.
Yep. Oh, your law is wrong, only my law is right.
Right. So, I'd like there to be less laws. I'd like there to be more laws that are constitutional. I think laws should be looked back on the Constitution, and your social laws, recognized by the state. Those are state issues.
Yeah.
So, if a state wants to run a incredible welfare program, that's up to them. Good for them. They have those. That's their priority. People elect their officials and everything like that. But, don't go asking for any kind of sympathy if your people are pissed off at you, and it's because you're not following the Constitution. And then the highest law in your land tells you what you're doing is unconstitutional, you need to stop it, and then you say, no, I'm not going to stop it. That's...
Yeah, nor should you get federal money for allowing your cities to be burned down because you allowed it, which is what the whole reason is that the second round of stimulus, which I don't even think that we should have, but a lot of financial experts are on TV saying that it's probably that it would be a better thing if they did, but you can't also hijack. That's what the other side is doing right now. They're hijacking it and saying that, oh, the Republicans, they don't want to make a deal. They don't want to make a deal. Well, they do want to make a deal for the average American. They
Right.
don't want to make a deal for these governors and mayors who have allowed their cities to be burnt down.
Correct.
Why you can't be against the federal government and saying that they're the problem and then turn around and ask them for a bunch of money because you let your cities be burnt down in the first place. And I suggest you all look into why the second stimulus has been being held up, because that's exactly what the reason is. The Democrats want to give a bunch of money to the cities and states that have had riots, and the Republicans said no, which seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, they want to give us money, not the endowment of the arts.
Yeah.
Who laid everybody off anyway? You know? And it was supposed to be that, like, one of the stipulations for the PPP loans is that you keep everybody working.
Yeah.
You know, you can't lay anybody off. You got to keep working. I mean, unless they're sick or they get COVID.
Yeah.
I'm talking. If they get COVID, well, yeah.
Yeah,
they're
obviously.
gonna work. But you take care of them. You use your PPE, your personal protective equipment, and that's how you got your loan. You had to. There's certain things you got to do. You can fire somebody if they don't do their job right or whatever, but you can't just lay.
Yeah, you can't just lay people off. Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to pay the loan back.
Yeah.
The loan's forgivable if you
keep everybody working. Yeah.
Okay, so when's the National Endowment of the Arts or whatever? When are they going to pay their loan back of millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars. Yeah. No, I'm sure that they will not.
I mean, if they gave everybody $10,000 check, can you imagine? Just to save their business?
Yeah.
Save them from losing their home? If all the money...
And it would still be less than what they spent on the first round of stimulus. That's why I didn't like the first round. I didn't want them to approve the first round of stimulus. I said, well, all I'm getting is, all the average person is getting $1,200 or maybe up to $4,000 if they have enough kids.
Right.
But, like, I don't think that you should even be doing, like, that's small money compared to everything else that's in the bill. You're spending millions of dollars on the NEA and hundreds of millions of dollars on this, and it's like, wait a minute.
If and I'm not saying I want that money, but here's the way I look at it. I look at my taxes. I looked at how much they took. I looked at how much they gave back, and I said to myself, "This isn't a handout. This is just some of my tax money back.
Yeah,
that isn't going to help me at all." So, I mean, I know a guy who he said, "I don't want handouts." He ripped up his check because he didn't do it. I said, "Are you insane?" He said, "No, I don't need handouts." I said, "That's not a handout. That's your tax dollars that you know." I said, "What did you get taxed last year?" He told me, and I said, "Well, that's just a little part of that back."
Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, he already ripped it. It was too late because he actually got a physical check. He didn't have it tied to an account, whatever." But you can't spend trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars over the course of a few months and use the modern monetary theory of just, we'll just print more money and then expect to get through it unscathed.
Yeah. Especially when you didn't give enough money to the right things in order to continue to pump money into the economy. Had you not spent hundreds of billions of dollars on some of the nonsense that they did and maybe gave more of that money to the people, then they probably would have pumped a little bit more of it into the economy, and then the Fed wouldn't have to be holding it up right now.
Right. Like, the Fed buying stocks to hold the stock market up. The Fed printing money like it's going out of style. The Fed
we'll see next
year.
year.
Digital currency.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trying to turn everything cashless.
Yeah, I'm not really happy with that either.
No. I kind of like...
And this whole coin shortage thing that I have seen nowhere, except for down at the Dollar Tree, coincidentally. When I was just down at the Dollar Tree, coincidentally, there's a sign that says exact change or credit because of coin shortage.
It is everywhere. It's at Sheets. It's all the gas stations and stuff like that. And they were like, we can't. And then now they're like saying, if possible. But some places, you give them they wanted you to understand, like, we might not have the change to give it back.
Yeah.
So, but all of this is Trump's fault.
Yes, of course. because he's the president, and when you're the president, you control all. So you have to wonder why Obama didn't do some things. But we'll save that conversation for another time as well.
Yes. So, communism, fascism. Some difference, not much. The differences between the two, communism is against racism, equality for all, blah, blah, blah. With the nationalistic, overly, highly nationalistic approach of fascism, racism comes into play. But Karl Marx hated Jews, even though he was one. We'll get to that on a different time. We'll have one just devoted, just to good old Karl.
Yeah.
And his, I want to do some research, more research, and make sure I dot all my I's and cross my T's, so anybody that thinks, oh, he's crazy or he doesn't know what he's talking about can actually look and verify it and say, oh, wow, he's right. The guy was nuts. What am I doing again?
Do you want to keep going or not, bro?
I'm pretty good.
I'm going to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us and telling us about the differences between communism and fascism. Of course, we went off and did some other things here, as we always do. We always do that on the Boiling Point, though. The conversations just flow naturally. We don't try and script anything here. So, hopefully you got some good information from Gavin here. We are definitely going to have him on the show as often as his schedule allows. And if you like the show, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, and also visit facebook.com/JDE Designs, facebook.com/The Boiling Point. And then, of course, if you want to buy some apparel, you go to bonfire.com/JDE Designs Apparel. Buy a shirt. Help support the show if you like it. And we will have Gavin on the show again. And look for us next week. We'll be having some new episodes again next week. Thank you for joining us on The Boiling Point. Until next time, remember to get out and vote in person.
Vote in person, please. Please. I don't care who you're voting for. That's your problem. But vote in person.
Vote in person. Do not vote by mail.
Store, you can vote in person.
Absolutely.
And then there's no confusion on election night. We don't have to wait for weeks to find out who won.
Absolutely.
Or any of the other things that are going to cause us to go into a civil war.
Yep.
Or anything ridiculous that none of us need or want. Just go and vote.
Yep, that's what we're advocating here.
Please
go and vote. Even if you're going to vote for Biden, whether you're going to vote for Trump, it doesn't matter. Just make sure you do it in person and not by mail. That's the Boiling Point recommendation right there. So until next time, enjoy.